Here we go. All right. This is the first inaugural episode of Shootin' the Wheeze. I don't really know what format I want to go yet. I don't know if I want to be looking at the camera. I don't know if I should just focus on my screen. I'm not really sure how I want to do this. I was pretty adamant on trying to do this solo, trying to do this just myself. I had said in a few live videos on TikTok before that I was inspired by Brittany Broski, who is kind of doing her own segment by herself. And the fact that the format works, I think proves that maybe I can do it by myself. I don't really work that well with others. I don't like depending on other people. I kind of have the gift of gab. I talk a lot. I can talk obviously by myself in a quiet room. And I've noticed in my time of doing this that I have been on podcasts that have been overpowered by men because pro wrestling is a male-dominated space. We know this. And I just feel that I am talked over. And a lot of the times other podcasts just don't have a format that flows. And I feel like there's a lot of dead air, a lot of dead space. And for that reason, I really don't even go on podcasts anymore. With that being said, welcome to Shootin' the Wheeze. If you know who I am, hi, hello, how you doing? Welcome to the Blonde Line, you know, all that good stuff. If you don't know who I am, I'll tell you. That's kind of the whole point of this inaugural episode. I'm going to give you a little backstory on who I am, answer a lot of the questions that I get very often, and then kind of go into the space that I grew in, you know, the Wrestletok space as it is. So that's kind of the rubric for today. I ordered groceries, so I have the Meijer lady texting me, asking me about, you know, we don't have the white bread and we don't have the pink lemonade mix. So if this probably will be edited so that I can chop some of that stuff out, but let's roll. So Wheezy Blonde, who am I? Who is she? How did we get here? This was 3 years ago. I downloaded TikTok. It wasn't during shutdown. It was towards the end of 2020, I believe. And I got bored and I had really fought the whole TikTok stuff. I wanted no part of it. I knew a lot of people that were obsessed with it. And at, end of 2020 was a weird time for TikTok too, because people were doing those dances and trends that are vastly different from kind of the space that we are in now. And I wanted no part of that. I was like a 28-year-old millennial. I was too cool for that, even though, I grew up in the YouTube era of the shoes video. But I still thought I was too cool for it. But I was like, let's give it a shot. Downloaded it. I don't even remember what sparked the idea of making TikToks. But when I started, it had nothing to do with pro wrestling. Nothing at all. I was doing little trends. I was doing fitness videos. In 2020, I had embarked on this journey where I started working out religiously. I built a gym in my garage. I eventually ended up dropping like 45 pounds. One of the best things I ever did. I was one of those weird cases where shutdown was actually very good for me. And I thrived in it. TikTok happened, posted my fitness content. I remember the first time I went viral. I went viral because I was ranting at work, a workplace that I no longer am at, but I was ranting about, the younger girls not pulling their weight or not having any kind of work ethic. That blew up. And I just continued to make random content from there on out. I have mommy issues. Hi. Hello. I have mommy issues. I posted about my mommy issues. That went viral. The biggest break was an Olivia Rodrigo song, that Good For You song, that was like kind of like the Paramore ripoff. And there was a transition video where Olivia starts off in the song and you're dressed like you are in, 2021. And then it pans over to like a 2007 version of yourself where we were very emo and the Paramore song plays. And that blew up and got about 1.8 million views. And my following started ticking up pretty crazy. I think within the first week I got over 10K, and then it felt like I was chasing a high. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a YouTuber really badly. I grew up in the era of vlogging, Shay Carl, Charles Trippy, the people that were doing daily vlogs, and I wanted to be like them so badly. But I was 15 years old. We didn't have a lot of money. My dad had bought me a flip video. I did have a laptop, but I didn't have really the knowledge to know how to go about recording. I didn't really have the content. I was 15. I was in high school. It felt like I was achieving a dream, I guess. And I knew that's what was happening. I knew that I was chasing this follower high. It was a little concerning, but at the same time, I didn't have anything else to do, especially end of 2021, beginning of 22. Things were so weird. We were still in masks. A lot of things weren't open. I wasn't seeing a lot of my friends. I had switched jobs. So I put all of my dead air time into making TikToks. Wrestling comes in with another random trend, because at the time that my wrestling video went viral, I was making mostly Midwestern content. I was making fun of the fact that I lived in Indiana. I was making very local based content. There's that song that goes, I'm gonna sing it and I might butcher it, but that international super spy, that one. I posted it that I, wasn't a wrestling fan, but then like Super Spy brought all my like action figures up. Haha, she's a wrestling fan. That went viral. A lot of the comments were, there's no way she's actually a wrestling fan. There's no way she's actually a wrestling fan. And I got a lot of wrestling fan questions on that video, and I got a lot of wrestling fan followers. When I started getting the questions, I started responding to them, because it's the typical, who's your favorite wrestler? Who's this? Whatever have you. I didn't think much of it. I was continuing to make my Indiana content. I was very hard set on not having a niche. Like, I didn't want to have a niche. I just wanted to make videos. And I thought that would be sustainable, and I thought that would work well enough for me. There was a trend where apparently there were a lot of people that were making wrestling videos. And this would have been end of 2021. This would have been end of 2021. And I got tagged by someone named Heel Kevin, who's now one of my best friends. But I got tagged by, oh no, actually it wasn't. I don't know that it was Heel Kevin. I think Kevin tagged me in one of his, but it was actually infamous opinionist Jade. That was the first person I think I actually remember tagging me. But Heel Kevin and infamous opinionist both put me on their Mount Rushmore of, it was either wrestling creators or female wrestling creators. And whichever one actually called me out and said, like, I know she doesn't really consider herself a wrestling creator, but she is. And I pondered on that for a little bit and was like, well, like, do I lean into this? I started following a lot more wrestling creators and realized that there was this space. The space that we now dub Wrestletok, which we'll get into later. I just kind of leaned into it. I started making opinion videos. I started answering questions and making cute little videos. And at the time, I honestly wasn't consistently watching weekly television. And this was, especially AEW. I wasn't watching AEW for sure weekly. WWE, 3 hours on a Monday, working a full-time job. I wasn't having it. I wasn't having any of it. And it's crazy. It's so wild and crazy to think about, 3 years later, where it's spiraled to and how we got here. Because I even remember saying at so many points that, like, I never wanted this to be a side gig. I never wanted to make this a job. I vividly remember saying, I have nothing to lose. This is just a hobby for me. And yet, here we are. 3 years later, I've got a Twitch schedule, a Twitch stream. Twitch coming into the picture was totally out of left field. I didn't anticipate ever doing that. I really leaned into TikTok lives. I really enjoyed live format. I think that's why I transitioned into streaming as well as I did, because I really enjoyed it. Wrestletok. It's a mouthful, and it's a loaded topic, and it's changed so much. And I actually get to a point where just the idea of acknowledging that a Wrestletok is a thing is strange for me to not only accept, but just kind of understand, because I don't really know where I fit in the broad scheme of things. It's not like I was a Wrestletok founder. I just was just a girl with a camera. Who happens to be really good at talking. And I watched Wrestletok go from being more of like a social media aspect. And what I mean by that is people interacting with each other, meeting other people that like wrestling, being friends and conversing with each other. I watched it go from that to more of like the content creation side of things. You watch people either sink or swim with it. Some people still just use it as the social media aspect. Some people let this idea of fame get to their heads. And I think that's one of the most interesting things, because really, in reality, you look at me, I've got 151, I think, thousand on TikTok itself. And if I go to a wrestling event or a wrestling show, there would be maybe 4 or 5 people that are going to recognize who I am. Until you get the following yourself, I don't know that you have a grasp of where you actually fit in like a fame label. I think a lot of us assume that, just because they have followers, maybe they have some, level of fame, infamy, whatever, what have you. And it's not the case. I work a full-time job. I have a regular life. I live in a regular house. I don't make jack shit doing this. I make a little bit, but nowhere near enough to like sustainably do it full time. There are very few people that are able to sustainably do it full time. And yeah, I just watched a lot of the fame. I hate to say fame, but I watch it get to people's heads. I went from being very involved in like the Wrestletok community to realizing I couldn't be, because I was way too trusting, and the parasocial kind of relationships that I built with people were fabricated, and a lot of them weren't real. And a lot of the people that I thought were my actual friends or that were good people turned out not to be, or they turned out to be the kind of people that I didn't want to associate myself with. And that's one of the dangers of this space, is that behind a camera lens, you can make yourself out to be whoever you want to be. And you find that the people that are really good at master manipulating are really good at master manipulating and making you think behind a camera lens that they are someone that they are not. And it was a really harsh reality for me, and it really upset me. But such is the name of the game, And you find too that the higher that you grow, so like my following continued to grow, and I eventually made the decision that I didn't just want to make like silly videos. Like I realized that I had something, I could create something out of this. I could make a side income, pay off some of my debt, that I had something here, and was encouraged by a few other successful people to do the same. And that's when I realized, okay, well, I need to take a step away from the parasocials. I need to take a step away from the real immaturity that exists in the Wrestletok space. And I've found that a lot of people that maybe don't have a lot of friends in real life, because let's be real, when you're a wrestling fan, you don't always have a lot of people around you that are interested in the same things that you are, if any at all. I know that was one of the biggest draws for me being a content creator, was because I finally found a place that I belonged. I found a place that I could exist, because none of my people around me liked what I liked. And I always felt like the oddball, and I felt super weird. So it was finally the sense of belonging. And on TikTok, especially, I find that people find this sense of belonging, and then they go overboard with it. And what I mean by that is I've gotten on TikTok and the live videos, right? They changed their live video format to where you can have 6 people in one TikTok live. 6 people with varying opinions, no tact whatsoever, talking over each other and doing the typical like toxic ass wrestling fan shit, where we're having a legit debate over whether Chris Benoit belongs in the Hall of Fame or not. Why in the actual fuck would you get on a TikTok live and decide that that's the topic of conversation that you're going to have? You're doing that kind of thing because you want the attention for it. And those are the big reasons that I think I kind of took a step back from a lot of that. And it's unfortunate and it sucks. And I hate to like cast judgment. There just is such a lack of level-headedness in like the Wrestletok space. And I hated what it was doing to my mindset. That on top of the more that you grow, I think I started saying that and then I got sidetracked. I have ADHD. The more you grow, the more backlash you're going to get. My comment section started getting a lot wilder. I am among a big group of people that do a very similar thing. And there are a few people that are a little more well-known than me. And so then the comparison aspect starts to begin. There has become an actual wrestling content creator tribalism, just like we have like between WWE and AEW. But there's a wrestling content creator tribalism where people will dead ass be such a fan of their favorite content creator, but they feel the need to go on other people's videos and say such and such is better or such and such is better. And if you want to exist online, you got to have thick skin. If you want to be dumb, you got to be tough. And I would like to think that I'm quite tough. Like, I can handle it. But there are days where you are spending hours upon hours trying to record, trying to edit videos, questioning yourself whether you should continue doing this. Because to be honest, life would be so much easier if I stopped doing this entirely. If I took a step away from making online content, from Twitch streaming, from really associating myself with wrestling in general, I would have a huge weight taken off of my shoulders. But I love doing this. And you know, in a way, you do have to like the attention from this. If you don't like the attention, then why the fuck would you be doing this? You know, and it's something that you sign up for. You do, and you get used to it. Some weeks are a lot more difficult than others, and you'll let that negativity really get to your head, really actually get into your head and make you question like whether you should really be doing this or not, And it's unfortunate. It's super unfortunate. I hate it, but it's a reality of it. So yeah, Wrestletok. It's been a thing for 3 years. I've watched the dramatics. I've watched the growth. I've watched people get in actual fights. I've watched the people have a bad take and then everybody jump on stitching that bad take and absolutely destroying them. And I've learned that there are so many different kinds of wrestling fans out there, more than I would have ever imagined. You just have to learn to coexist with them. Trying to have a conversation with them is essentially the same as talking to a brick fucking wall. If someone thinks something, it's very much like politics. If someone thinks something, they're going to continue to think it. You're not going to be the one that changes their mind. I guarantee you that. You're not going to be the one that changes their mind. So they're just going to go in circles with you over this topic. You're trying to convince them that they're right. They're dead ass set that they're not going to be convinced of anything. And then it's just basically wasted breath from both parties. So don't recommend engaging in that. I would like to think I never really have. I'm sure I have here and there because I genuinely like to be right. But, you know, what can you do? I wanted to touch on one of the questions that I get asked the most, because with this growing platform, there are a lot of people that want to try to be quote unquote like content creators themselves. And I get asked like, how do I get started in doing this? How do I do that? How do I do that? And it feels weird being asked that because I feel like I just did it based on a fluke. It just kind of happened. I feel like it fell in my lap and I ran with it. But if you want my actual advice, try to set yourself apart from other people. Don't jump on to something that everyone else is doing. Listen, I know that I do the reaction videos the way that 4 or 5 other people do it. But in my defense, I was one of the first people to start doing it. So don't come at me. And I might not do it as well as someone else, but I enjoy doing it and it's fun. Do something that sets yourself apart. Be authentic, which I think is the hardest thing for anyone to do, because I think we have it in our heads that we really need to be very animated, and it's the very much like millennial mindset of YouTube in the early 2010s, thousands, where, you know, you just, hi, hello, my name is Wheezy Blonde, and I need to do the like, and it just, and I fell into that for a little while, but I found that being more authentic is actually way more, it goes over well with an audience. It goes over way better with an audience for sure. So that, and I think people get really caught up in like equipment, and I know that I did at first. I didn't know if I was really going to talk about it, but I guess we're going to talk about it. I joined that podcast that was called Straight Shoot, and at the beginning it was, you know, okay, this is this established brand. The owner was stepping away, and it seemed like a good way to get some exposure, right? I was looking to grow at the time. I'd made the decision that I wanted to be a content creator, and I jumped on board. And one of the requirements I remember being told to be a part of the podcast was that I had to have good audio. And I had just bought a new condenser mic. I had bought like a Fi-Fine something from Amazon. It was like 70 something bucks. It made me sound exactly like I sound right now, but it was a USB microphone. And I was told, well, you need to have the Shure SM7B. And I'm like, okay, so this is like a $400 microphone. Invested in it. I have it. It is what it is. Did I need it at that point in my career? No, I didn't. Not only that, but I joined Straight Shoot, and we really didn't record as much as I thought we were going to. And that was definitely a fault of all parties involved. I won't say that it was any particular person's fault. It's kind of where I'm coming from with not wanting to be on a multi-person podcast anymore, or even really being invited on one, because you're depending on someone else's time. You're depending on someone else's word, especially when it comes to editing and posting. Because what happened a lot with me being on other podcasts is that I would take an hour out of my day. Now, mind you, especially a couple years ago, or a year ago even, I was working over 40 hours a week on my feet, 12-hour days. And then I carve out an hour, 2 hours of my time in my off time to record. And then that footage would go nowhere. My time would go nowhere. And it's happened so many times to where I'm like, okay, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. If I'm going to do that, then it's going to be my fault, and I'm going to be the one that records it, and I'm going to be the one that's lazy, or, I stuck it out being on another podcast. And I finally got to a point, because I had wanted to quit for a while. I'd wanted to be done for a while. It just wasn't my vibe. It's definitely hard when you have conflicting personalities, especially not just like conflicting personalities, but conflicting, I don't want to say morals. But maybe just views on like the world and life in general. On top of that, being a woman constantly surrounded by men. And I think that's something that maybe a lot of men just don't think about, but it's a very uncomfortable thing. And maybe I'm just full of shit and it's just me. But if I'm, say, like in somebody's Twitch stream or their live or whatever, and the conversation turns to objectifying, and you know what? We all make comments about like someone looking good. I get that. But when it comes to like objectifying somebody for 10 fucking minutes and just allowing it to spiral, allowing that conversation to get so out of hand, and you don't have control over who's saying what, it's like perpetuating an environment that makes me feel uncomfortable. And that is really where I really needed to remove myself from that, because not all audiences are created equal. You definitely attract a certain kind of energy depending on the kind of person that you are. And I've definitely found that to be 3000% true. So that was, my experience being on a podcast. I was grateful for the opportunity. It wasn't what I, thought it was going to be in the beginning, for sure. And I had really good reasons for not doing it anymore. But I do like this format. And this is what I'm realizing at this point. This is absolutely a fucking test run to just kind of see what it's like to record something on my own. And this definitely is just me just fucking shooting the Wheeze. I really am. I'm just shooting with what comes to mind. But I could definitely improve by having a little more of a rubric of topics. When I sat down to record this, I really wanted to answer some questions that I had like in my Instagram thing, because we haven't really like dove into actual wrestling and what I think about this and what I think about this. I'm really just kind of giving you a backstory, and I do think that this needs to be its own episode and its own entity, and it will be with minimal editing. I think there's only a few things that I've put in here that I need to cut out. What a ride, I can't think of where from here I would even turn, but having been here 3 years, and you can't even like having this is an entire, the space that I'm sitting in right now. If you're just like listening on Spotify, you're not gonna know what I'm talking about, but I'm sitting in my spare bedroom in the back of my house that was an addition that sat empty with old 70s shag carpet for years. And I finally decided to renovate it and make it my office. And we redid the flooring and I redid the trim and I built my own desk and I bought these shelves on Marketplace and I have a 3-screen setup and a PC and all these things that I've invested in to create this space because I love doing this. And I wish I had known that this was something that I loved years ago, because I would have went in this direction rather than my current career. And I love my current career. I've been doing it for 10 years. I'm a hairstylist. I probably didn't mention that. But yeah, I've been a hairstylist for 10 years. I went to college right after high school, 2011. Didn't know what I was doing. Thought I was going to, be in computers. Thought I was going to be like computer programming. I thought I was going to be a nutritionist. I thought I could be a translator at the fucking police department. Like there were so many different thoughts because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an artist. I had the opportunity to get a scholarship to go down to art school in Indianapolis and I didn't, so that I could stay here with my family. And all of those decisions lead you to where you are. So I don't necessarily regret them, but God, you're not the same person in 10 years ago than you are now. And it's unfortunate that it can be so hard to switch careers or switch up what you're doing because you've invested so much time in it. And I also have student debt that I'm still paying on. So that's, wonderful. I don't know. It's just, it's wild to think what just a little hobby did. Like, I posted a TikTok. I downloaded an app that people were making fun of that a 28-year-old shouldn't have had, that wasn't for me. They were telling me that wasn't for me. And now I'm 31 and I've watched TikTok turn from the silly dancing app into a marketing goldmine where the algorithm works for you. And if you have a product, you can sell it. And if you have a show, you can promote it. I've driven so much traffic to my other platforms because TikTok exists. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And I'm so grateful that I fell into it. If I can end on any note, it would just be that I am not just self-made. I was able to do this because there were other people that were lifting me up and I had other people that gave me advice. I really just wouldn't be here without them and without the little voice in my head that doesn't care what other people think. I got made fun of. First of all, I still get made fun of. I went to dinner for my salon. And for some reason, y'all are listening to this. I'm sorry, but it happened. I went to dinner, a salon dinner for my place of employment. And one of my coworkers' husbands, they were bringing up, and it was right when I first started I think I just started streaming. I think I was leaving to go stream. And one of the other husbands was asking me about it because they thought it was cool. They were like, oh, like so you're watching wrestling and you do this and this and this. And the other husband pipes up and he says, I don't remember what exactly he said. I just know it pissed me off, but he just was like, you watch wrestling, he goes, you're a grown woman and you watch wrestling. And I just sat there like, yeah, I do. And the table went kind of quiet and I was like, okay, watch this. Like, no, I don't dull people's sparkle just because you don't understand it or it's not your cup of tea. Like, the amount of judgment for other people's hobbies that I've come across, especially when not a lot of people expect a girl to be like a fan of wrestling, but we're out there and we exist. Like, don't be a dick. But the amount of judgment that I've seen people pass on someone just for enjoying something, get bent. It's the absolute most ridiculous thing in the entire world. Just let people live, let people enjoy things, let people exist. We are way too concerned with what other people are doing. I'll tell you that much. I think I've babbled for a while. I've definitely babbled for a while. If you've somehow made it to this point, awesome. We're going to get better. I think there's a saying where your first podcast always sucks. So that's all right. I'm cool with that. This is how we're going to learn, all right? This is how we're going to learn. We'll take feedback. If you don't know, I do stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday on Twitch, twitch.tv/WheezyBlonde. I'm there 8 p.m. Eastern. I do watch-alongs. I have a TikTok, tiktok.com/@WheezyBlonde. I have an Instagram, instagram.com/itsWheezyBlonde. Those are a little different. I do have a Twitter, but I hate it. So follow me on those things. Send me some feedback. I have a whole list of questions that I'm going to go through, and I think we're going to do like a Q&A video. But I think this was a good kind of ramble to give you an idea of who I am, how I got here, how we do it. And yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming to shoot the Wheeze with me. I hope y'all have a great day. Take care.